What's good? I appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about parenting and we're going to take a look back to some events that occurred last week with the super mayor, new appointments. We're going to discuss it. I'm Marcus. You're at the channel of the Debt Free Dad, where we do attorney reaction videos and discuss finance, scam topics, things to avoid like that. As always, the disclaimer, I'm a licensed attorney, but I'm not your attorney. So this isn't legal or financial advice. It's infotainment purposes as I give my take on opinion and topics. Now, today, shout out to the first commenter of the day. Hey, Brian, I appreciate you tuning in. Always got to give a round of applause to the supporters, especially the first comment of the day. What's going on, Common Sense? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Now, this video is going to be interesting because we're going to take a look at the super mayor's new appointment. It may or may not be illegal. We'll discuss that when we get there. We got a couple of videos, and we're going to actually go through a court case because I wanted to find out what actually happened with the new top cop in Dolton and his son. I wanted to get the facts, and the best way to find the facts is to always go to the court case. So before we dive in, I got a nice little precursor video because I felt like we left off on parenting, and what should you do for your kids. And it reminded me of this video. This video, I don't know, it's probably about 8 months old, but I thought this would be a good precursor to look at before we dive into what's going on in the lovely village of Dolton. So let's go ahead and pull this up, because I think this is a great example of how, hey, parents treat their kids differently. Some parents hold their kids accountable. Other parents will never hold their kids accountable because that's just their parenting style. But I thought this video was interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look before we dive into the super mayor content.
Yeah. Oh my God, you cash it. Over here. The door's locked. Think I'm stupid? Come on. Open it. It's locked. Give me the phone. What you guys have my phone for? Give me the phone. I'm gonna take the screen off and you can get out of here or I can call the cops. What is it? I'm not calling you. Why am I inside the store? Like, why you lock the doors on me? I ain't my phone. All right, I'm gonna call the cops today.
Now, if that was me, I would have just gave the phone back so he could let me go. I damn sure wouldn't have called Mama DFD.
You're gonna go home. Which one is it?
Let's see how this mother reacts to her daughter trying to steal something.
All you have to do is give me the phone. Let me take the screen off, and I'll let you go. Give me the phone back. Give me the phone back. Give me the phone. I'm gonna take the screen off and put your old screen back on and let you go. I'm at the one down the way.
Never call your mom for something like that. That's crazy.
My customer tried to run away with a phone screen that I repaired for her.
Now he's calling the cops. She could have been gone about her business.
He's threatening me to get somebody over here to shoot me. Yeah. And all I told her is to give me the phone, let me take the screen off, and I'll let her go. But she's getting people sent over here so they can shoot up the store.
Now, what the f*** is going on?
She tried to run out of the store.
Okay.
All right, so since we're going to dive into parenting as it relates to some stuff that's going on in the village of Dolton, let's line up the scenario for everybody new. If you've never seen this video before, daughter takes her phone to the phone shop to get it repaired. After she confirmed that the repairs was done, she tries to bolt out of the door, but the store owner locks the door. Now he, which I think was fair, says, yo, just give me the phone back. I'll take off the new screen, put your damaged screen back on, and you can go. But this girl didn't take the olive branch that was handed to her. And instead she said, you know what? I'm going to call my mother. So this is mom coming in. And let's see how this mother reacts in this situation. Your kid clearly did something wrong. He gave her an opportunity to kind of get out of there and just everything be a wash. But she called mom instead. Let's see how she acts in this scenario. because I know how I would have acted in this scenario. But let's finish watching the video.
What's going on?
She tried to run out of the store.
Okay.
And I told her, give me the phone, I'll take the screen off, and we can be done with this. But she wasn't having it.
How much is the phone cost?
The screen is $125.
Tiffany, you only charge me $75 for mine, so I can tell.
All right. her daughter in there trying to steal, and the mother came in there, asked what was going on, and started arguing with the dude over the amount that he charged her. That's wild to me. But hey, this video is just to show how sometimes, hey, when it comes to your kids, some people just you can't rationalize things all the time when it comes to your kids. And I think this is a prime example.
I got an 11.
Or 11.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. You didn't charge my other kid or my other kids that much, so why just charge her?
The screen for the 1200 is $200.
You didn't charge me when you fixed my phone. They didn't charge me that.
You must have got insurance or something.
No, you y'all fixed it your insurance. What do you mean? You must have got insurance. I got insurance too. So why you didn't go with insurance? I don't know.
She arguing with her about the insurance. She arguing with the guy over the price. She didn't say shit about her daughter trying to commit a crime and steal some shit. Essentially, services rendered. But again, this is going to tie into the story. We're going to get
all
to
you
it.
have to do is give me the phone back and I can take the screen off and we're done.
You just go around the corner and get it fixed. Come on, let's go. Give him the phone. I'm about to get it fixed. Give him the phone and take the screen off. Why you gonna try to break my phone? Break your phone.
It's already broken.
Why would you even try to come to a place that charges $100 and some other dollars? I need you to tell me that when I drop my phone off.
Yes, I did.
No, you did not. You want to have me do some crazy shit, bitch, because I'm thinking this motherfucker doing something to you. Automatic lock. You know, he did that because he thought so weird that he did that. He's not supposed to
You ran, honey, your daughter is a liar.
What happened?
Your intention was to run out here with the phone. That's why your friend had the door open and I told you to have her close it. I knew you were doing this. Honey, I've been doing this for 30 years. You have a problem. No. You don't want you to hear the truth. I told her your phone is not fixable. I told her your battery's fat. Your earpiece
Heavy
is
girls
messed
that right
up.
out here with
Look
their
at the
phone
back.
being fixed. Heavy girls, I know. So what did you do?
All right, enough of this tomfoolery. But this is a prime example. That video is a prime example. Literally, the entire video, the mother never said anything shocked about the daughter behavior, why she getting there. The mother don't even know what's going on. She arguing with the guy over the price, completely missing the issue. The point of that video is to say, when it comes to your kids, sometimes you will completely miss whatever wrongdoing that they have done and justify it. That's just what some people do. Not all people. I know some people in this chat who, if their kids do some fucked up shit, they let them go to prison. We've already established that. So let's go ahead and dive into this video, and then we're going to look at this court case to see what is going on. Let's go ahead and cue this up. We'll watch this video, get into the comments, then get into the court case.
Also developing tonight, WGN News has learned that there is a new police chief in Dolton.
But the village trustees say that Mayor Tiffany Henyard has overstepped her authority. WGN's Jenna Barnes is there to explain that for us tonight. Jenna?
Hi, Ray and Dana. Yes, a shock for police officers today when they learned that there's a new Dolton police chief. He's actually a former chief who served back here in the early 2000s. He was appointed again today, but not without controversy. A surprise new boss at the Dolton Police Department. WGN News has learned Ronald Burge Sr. started work Friday, appointed by Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Several officers have called stating that he has taken a car away from one of the commanders. He went to go try to purchase a uniform already.
But members of the Board of Trustees argue without their approval, his hiring isn't legitimate and the village won't pay him.
It's an illegal appointment. This is just about how can I get them back. It's about retaliation.
The appointment comes during a power struggle in the village and the department. The board fired the former acting chief, Henyard ally Lewis Lacey, and officers presented a unified vote of no confidence against him. He's also pleaded not guilty to federal bankruptcy fraud charges.
This person has the same level of unprofessionalism as Lewis Lacey, and we've experienced the Ronald Burge episode before, as the chief had several lawsuits and unethical behavior, and that's not the direction that we want Dolton Police Department to go in.
A search of a federal court database shows Burge has been named as a defendant in at least 4 lawsuits in recent years. The majority involve allegations of political or employment retaliation. The outcomes of the lawsuits couldn't be immediately determined. Burge is known in the south suburbs. He ran against Henyard in the 2021 mayor's race, and he's previously served as police chief in Harvey and Dixmoor too, though his state certification is currently listed as inactive.
And we cannot provide those services if we don't have what's required of us.
As chief in Dixmoor, he pulled officers off the street in 2021, accusing the village of not providing the supplies they needed to do the job. His son, a commander with the same name, served under him there, and he was charged in 2019 of aggravated battery and official misconduct in an encounter caught on camera at the police station. Here's what the elder Burge told WGN News before his son was convicted.
I am proud of my son. Make no doubt about it. And if I thought that my son did anything wrong or out of order, believe me, as a father, as the chief of police, I would not hesitate to do what I have to do.
Trustees aren't hesitating now. They plan to go to court to fight his hiring.
I just feel like no one's coming to save us, us as trustees or the community.
A Henyard representative did not respond to our request for comment tonight. We also went inside the police department to try to talk to the new chief, and we're told he wasn't there. We're live in Dolton tonight. Jenna Barnes.
All right, something weird about that too is I don't understand why, like, maybe this is just me, but if I was on the board of trustees and she made this appointment, and yeah, it's probably illegal, it's probably not done within the proper processes. But what would be the point at this stage of going to court to fight anything? If they go to court, they only spending more of the taxpayers' money. Like real talk, I would just be like, yo, let's just let the appointment slide. We almost at the end of the year. We almost at election time. Let's pray that we just get this person up out of office. So I think continuing on with litigation for anything that the mayor does, you know, whether it's her in her mayor position, whether it's her as a supervising trustee, it's kind of pointless at this point because you're going to start litigation and you're just wasting even more taxpayer money. I wanted to get to some of these comments before we dive into the case. They voted for her because she was black and they deserve everything they got coming to them. They voted for her because she was black and a woman and younger than the politicians that they normally see. Yeah. I admit that it was an influence, but they thought she was a trustee for over 7 years. She could do the job. I agree with that. I actually just replied to a comment earlier where I'm not familiar with her entire record as a trustee, but I did go back and I watched some hearings that were conducted when she was a trustee. And on the vast majority of things that I saw, she appeared to be on the right side of the arguments that were at issues in her role as a trustee. Now, hey, power corrupts. When you get more power, you got more opportunities to do more BS. So I definitely understand that. But I will say from the videos I've seen, I went back, tried to look at her record as a trustee. A lot of times she was on what I would probably call the right side of the argument. Now, the right side of the argument is always debatable. Hints of it at the trustee meeting, she bullies through. I agree. Let's see. Well, that's true. All they wanted to see was the fact that she was black. That's all that mattered to them. And they didn't bother to look any deeper because she was black. And that was it. I mean, it was people play identity politics all the time. And also, I think it was also that was part of it. The other part of it was, I think that there were some promises that were made. And if I make promises to a candidate and we come to an agreement, if I'm that type of politician, me and you make an agreement, I don't give a fuck if you was black or green. If you're agreeing that when you get in that position, you're going to do what we agreed for you to do. So, I think it was a little bit of all of that. I think it was a little bit of identity politics being played. I think she was a woman. She was a black woman. I think she made some good behind the door deals, more likely than that as well. What's up, Norm? Appreciate you tuning in. I just wanted to get through the comments before we dove into Dolton has won a temporary restraining order against Tiffany and her thugs. Oh, that was cool. We're gonna have to look into that because that what happened the other day was an absolute shit show. I started watching it. We might have to do that either tomorrow or Saturday. She has just been a complete failure, shameful what they voted into office. I agree. She was terrible. My parents would have killed me. Exactly. Like at no time in that video did the mother address the issue, which was her daughter essentially trying to commit a crime. That wasn't addressed at all. Everything else, oh my goodness. I knew that was coming too. I knew that was coming too. Well, that might be tomorrow live. We may have to go through Eric Adams' indictment. Man, these Democrats on the roll. Everybody gonna say I'm a Trump guy now, but like politicians in general. I just saw an article about a sheriff in Illinois who finessed like $5 million. Dude was buying planes and boats and everything. So, hey, greed and corruption, it has no political boundaries. Red, blue, donkey, elephant, camel, goat, kitten, they all do it. My dad would walk me to the police station. Right. I agree with that. My parents didn't play either. They meant business. I agree. Dragged by the ear. Double time march. That's funny. There are positions that are appointed by the mayor, but we have no idea what position since she took down access to the ordinances. It is. Hey, it is old news, but hey, I don't talk about it. I'm not doing the live stream as this stuff is happening, so we touch on it when we touch on it. Let's make sure we get the super chat. Trustee want a TRO against the mayor. We'll probably pull that up to shout out to Carol Morton. I appreciate you dropping the super chat as well. And we could dive into that tomorrow. We might have time. Let's see how fast this goes. Let's go ahead and get into this court case. So the question that issued right now, because I even looked on news articles and I looked up some of the previous cases of the new top cop in Dolton, Ronald Burge Sr. And I will tell you, the cases that he were involved in were a lot less egregious than the tens of cases that I've browsed through regarding the former top cop, Louis Lacey. I mean, so that's just you call up the back end mess of the meeting. I did see some of it. I'm trying to get through most of it so I could figure out what key portions. I don't want to sit here and do a whole 2-hour video of the whole thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of, man. Vote for whoever you want to vote for. Everybody put badges on who to vote for and this and that. And some people get in the comments and say, I'm a Republican. Some people say I'm a Democrat. I say I'm a veteran who's done stuff for this country that you can't imagine. And I reserve the right to vote for whoever the hell I want to. And I did those things so you all could vote for whoever the hell you want to. It ain't that serious because, at the end of the day, whoever's in office, they're going to do what they need to do. Now, let's go into this court case. But the question at issue is how they're trying to paint the new top cop in Dolton. Is it actually as bad as it's being perceived to be? Or is this just a parent who lacks the ability to hold their child accountable for wrongdoing? Because I think you can have a little bit of nepotism and it not necessarily impact your general overall ability to do a job. An example I used yesterday was LeBron. Nepotism happens all the time. In the Deadpool movie, I can't think of his name. The guy who played Deadpool, he had his wife play female Deadpool. He had his daughter play kid Deadpool. I would have did the same shit if I was the lead actor. We talked about LeBron James yesterday. Is it in LeBron James' best interest to have his son, who probably doesn't have it? Let's just keep it a buck. I would love to see him do great, but he probably doesn't have it. Is it in LeBron's best interest to put this kid on the team? No, they could have gave that $6 million. He gave him a $6 million guaranteed contract for a guy who wasn't drafted is unheard of and complete waste of money. That money could have went to hire somebody who could help LeBron win a championship, but LeBron had his blinders on. He had tunnel vision. All he know is my son's dream is this, and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do, even if it sacrifices my potential legacy by putting me at a disadvantage of having the best team around me to do it. So let's go ahead and dive into this court case. How can anyone be appointed without first passing a background check? Well, background checks are interesting. Background checks are interesting because you can background checks to get a real, like, I'm talking about like top secret background check. You're talking about like 8 to 16 months. 8 is generous, maybe more like 12 to 18 months. But sometimes you can't not put a person in a position because you're just waiting for that background to go through. So normally what they'll do, and I don't know if this was done, I seriously doubt it, because these local politics, they just shooting from the hip, it appears. But a lot of times what's done at more of the federal level, and I can speak because I've seen this process and been involved in this process. You go through your background check. Once they do a certain percentage of your background check, they'll say, okay, even though your background check isn't done, you passed the first third of the background check. Your credit is good. You haven't like been making ecstasy or meth or fentanyl or anything like that. And once you, even though your background check isn't done, you've passed the first third, the first half of the background check with flying colors. So we're going to go ahead and give you a temporary appointment to serve in this position while we still do this background check. Normally it'll be a term for another 12, 14, 18 months, whatever's needed for them to finish up the background check. And if your check don't come through, they normally will kick your ass to the curb. But that's kind of how it goes with the feds. When it comes down to local politics, I'm going to just be honest. I don't think the local politics, they probably aren't doing in-depth background check. It's probably like some general background check where they pay a fee online or something like that. Your ex never voted, which you told him was negated his right to complain. I agree. Kim putting daughter in a high-value stage production where the child still needs experience and vocal coaches. People are going to do what's in the best interest of their kids most times. Yeah. In fact, they may have that qualification mandates within the ordinance, but we don't know since we cannot read them. Yep. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and pull up this complaint because I want to see what expressly did Ronald Burge Jr. do. Now, this case was interesting because it went all the way to the highest court in the state. Now, I'm not even going to read the highest court in the state opinion. I'm going to read the appellate division because it was appealed to the Court of Appeals. Then it went to the highest court in the state. They lost. The conviction appears to be upheld, but I wanted to read the facts of it because I was like, damn, his son assaulted, allegedly, well, no, his son assaulted because he's convicted a 60-something-year-old lady. Dad is saying no, she was acting wild. She was wilding out. You could be a thug at 60, 70. Age is not a factor in thugism, according to Dad. So I wanted to see what the meat and potatoes was of what was going on with Ronald Burge Jr. so we can identify if the appointment of this top cop is a much worse appointment than Louis Lacey. I'm going to go out on a limb before we start and say no, because I looked at the litigation that Louis Lacey was involved in, and it was excessive use of force. It was everything from car chases to, I mean, he was just involved in a plethora of shit that you wouldn't want your top cop to have a history in. When I looked at the previous litigation around Ronald Burge Sr., the new top cop, it was more of employment Title VII discrimination matters. I read one of the cases and it was boring as hell. All right, so let's get into what happened with Ronald Burge Jr. so we can make a determination of does his father's position on these facts put a stench in his ability to perform as Dalton's top cop? But so far, again, he has a history that is much, much better than what we've seen from Louis Lacy in the past. I'm gonna just be honest. Y'all could Google it. All of his cases are out there in open source. You can find them. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. Let me see. Can y'all see that? Do y'all even want it on the screen, or would y'all prefer me just to read it and leave this shit off of the screen? Y'all let me know in the comments. I'll do it like that for now. All right. A grand jury indicted defendant on several counts of aggravated battery, official misconduct, and disorderly conduct. The state proceeded to trial against him on 4 counts of aggravated battery and 1 count of official misconduct. Now, I will tell you, the fact that you're a police officer or law enforcement and state prosecutors move to pursue charges against you, you probably did some fuck shit. Because normally the state prosecutors aren't going to be in a rush to prosecute cops for things because they need cops to do the job. We saw in Baltimore with Marilyn Mosby, I believe, when she prosecuted law enforcement and they stopped doing work, and Baltimore was even more of a cesspool of crime than what it would normally be. So typically, if state prosecutors are prosecuting police, some wild shit had to have happened. Okay. All right. State proceeded to trial against him on 4 counts of aggravated battery and 1 count of official misconduct. Count 2 alleged that the defendant committed aggravated battery by striking Carla Bourgeois head against the wall while on public property. Count 4 alleged that the defendant committed aggravated battery by striking Bourgeois head against the wall while knowing she was 60 years of age or older. Count 5 alleged the defendant committed official misconduct by committing a battery while in his capacity as a police officer. Count 8 alleged the defendant committed an aggravated battery by dragging Bourgeois with his arm across her neck and chest, with her feet at times dangling off the ground while on a public way or public property. Count 9 alleges that defendant committed aggravated battery by dragging Bourgeois with his arm across her neck and chest, with her feet at times dragging off the ground, knowing she was 60 or older. Most times when you have a regular crime, they keep talking about the 60 or older. If you have a regular crime of, let's say, theft, most states will have theft of a vulnerable adult or vulnerable person. If you got a regular assault charge, you have assault of a vulnerable person. Vulnerable persons are elderly, children, and person with developmental and cognitive delays. All right, the case proceeded to jury trial where Bourgeois was the state's only witness. She testified that on October 5th, 2019, she was 5 feet 1 inch tall, weighed approximately 112 pounds. Damn, grandma was a lightweight. 112 pounds and was 65 years old. That morning, Bourgeois saw her brother-in-law outside her home. When he refused to leave, Bourgeois called the Dixmoor Police Department. Sergeant Villegas and Officer Thompson responded. Hold on, give me 1 second. I need to see if I could adjust something real quick. All right. Officer Thompson responded. Instead of removing Bourgeois' brother-in-law, Sergeant Villegas and Officer Thompson got into an argument with one of her grandsons, Kajan. The argument escalated, and as Bourgeois grabbed Kajan while Sergeant Villegas and Officer Thompson were trying to arrest him, they all fell into a ditch. Ultimately, the officers arrested Kajan. Okay, so these officers already fell in the dirt because grandma tried to grab the grandson. It looks like everybody lost their balance. So I'm assuming they already not happy about that shit. It's probably the case. All right, it says Bourgeois and her daughter, Mia, who is Kajan's mother, went to the Dixmoor police station to find out why Kajan had been arrested. But according to Bourgeois, they were not able to speak to anyone. Video evidence admitted and played at trial, however, showed Bourgeois and Mia discussing the incident with Officer Thomas and Sergeant Villegas. Bourgeois left the police station, and when she returned, Mia was there along with Jarvis Sr., Kajan's father, and 3 children, 2 of which were Bourgeois' grandchildren, and one of which was Jarvis Sr.'s child. They bringing their whole family here. That's a bad look to kids and shit. Sorry, all this reading, the brother's throat got parched. While in the lobby, defendant appeared to discuss the incident with Bourgeois. According to her, defendant was upset that he had to come to the police station on his day off. So right now they're talking about Officer Ronald Burge Jr. While they were talking, Jarvis Sr. was recording the encounter with his cell phone, which defendant asserted was illegal. Which it wasn't, but that's a whole nother story. Defendant gave Jarvis Sr. an ultimatum to either give him the phone or be arrested. Jarvis Sr. chose the latter. Still, defendant attempted to retrieve the phone, but the family passed it amongst each other, with Jarvis Sr. eventually getting it back. Video evidence was consistent with Bourgeois' testimony. As defendant began to lead Jarvis Sr. out of the lobby and into the non-public area of the police station, Bourgeois started recording with her phone. Bourgeois followed them to the door separating the lobby and non-public area, which indicated the non-public area was restricted. She propped the door open, though did not cross the door's threshold. Give me 1 second. I had to, anytime I move that mic, I got to check it to make sure it's not jacked up. She propped the door open, though did not cross the door's threshold, and continued recording. Defendant immediately yelled, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," which prompted Bourgeois to run out of the police station. She crossed West 145th Street, which was adjacent to the station, and ran into the parking lot, all in an effort to keep her phone. At trial, Bourgeois denied that she heard defendant telling her to stop or that she was under arrest. Video evidence, however, showed that the defendant yelled at her that she was under arrest as she ran out of the station. That's going to be, I think that's reasonable. You got an old ass, late 60s, not old, but you got an older woman who's in a stressed out environment. She's trying to get her phone, is dealing with the cops. Normally, if you dealing with the cops, it could go left at any time. So it's not uncommon. I don't think it's unbelievable that she didn't hear his statement that she was under arrest. Video evidence further showed defendant chased after Bourgeois with Sergeant Villegas, Mia, and the 3 children all running outside. This is a shit show. After Bourgeois ran into the parking lot, she paused behind various vehicles, while behind those vehicles and out of the view of the security camera. Defendant caught up to her. Shortly after, Mia, the 3 children, and Sergeant Villegas all disappeared behind the vehicles in the parking lot. According to Bourgeois, once defendant caught her, he took out his firearm and grabbed her around the chest and neck. Video evidence showed defendant with his left arm around Bourgeois and a firearm in his right hand, pointed towards the ground. Sorry, I'm giving him extra shit he didn't do. Firearm grabbed her around his neck. Video evidence showed defendant with his left arm around Bourgeois and a firearm in his right hand and pointed towards the ground a couple of feet into West 145th Street. As this occurred, Mia and the 3 children can be seen yelling at defendant, with Sergeant Villegas right by them, while a black SUV drove slowly towards them. As the vehicle drove near them, defendant dragged Bourgeois closer towards the middle of West 145th Street. The vehicle slowed down and briefly stopped for several feet in front of the defendant and Bourgeois, with Sergeant Villegas, Mia, and the 3 children all congregated around it. Although Bourgeois testified that her family was yelling at defendant, she denied that any of them threatened him. Once the vehicle left the scene, Officer Thomas came outside and walked towards the defendant. Bourgeois testified that neither she nor anyone else with her was armed with a weapon. According to Bourgeois, defendant then lifted her off her feet and dragged her to the back door of the police station. Video evidence showed defendant dragged Bourgeois several feet to the back door of the police station with his left arm around her neck and with a firearm in her right hand. This fuck shit. Her right hand. At times, her feet dangled off the ground. While defendant dragged Bourgeois, the rest of her family members remained in the parking lot at the back door of the police station. Defendant pinned Bourgeois against the back door of the police station. No, defendant pinned Bourgeois against the back door of the police station with his body. According to Bourgeois, due to defendant's conduct, she was losing her breath and trying to prevent herself from being choked to death. Video evidence showed Mia approach the back door of the police station, yelling at defendant and forcibly walking within inches of him while being restrained by Sergeant Villegas, with Officer Thomas at his side. A dispatcher opened the back door and the defendant dragged Bourgeois inside with his arms stiff around her neck. Video evidence showed defendant give his firearm to the dispatcher. According to Bourgeois, after taking a few steps down the hallway, defendant pinned her against the wall and bashed her face against the wall multiple times. Defendant then swung Bourgeois around and pushed her against the counter on the opposite side of the hallway. Video evidence was generally consistent with Bourgeois' testimony at trial. Bourgeois denied being aggressive towards defendant or ever hitting or scratching him. Let me see. I'm trying to see, is this worthwhile? Because I think we got enough here. Let's see. In the defendant's case, defendant testified that he was 33 years old, 6 foot tall, and weighed between 235 and 240 on October 5th. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, same thing. It's same. Essentially, this is the defendant's description of the facts. At trial, although the defendant conceded it was not illegal to record police officers performing their duties, he claimed that it was illegal to record in the secure area of the police station. But according to the previous paragraph, it didn't look like at the time of the recording, when it started, they were in the restricted area. Defendant told Jarvis that he would have to take him into custody, blah, blah, blah. Defendant chased her because she disobeyed a lawful arrest order. And when he approached her behind vehicles in the parking lot, he tried to grab her shoulder. As he reached for Bourgeois, she punched him. This sounds like Cap. As he reached for Bourgeois, she punched him and dug her nails into his groin area. Defendant was able to get a hold of Bourgeois and walked her into West 145th Street. Yeah, his facts sound Cat. While performing the one near the earlobe, Bourgeois' body jerked and her head bumped the wall. Is he making it seem like it was inadvertent? Bourgeois continued to resist in the hallway before defendant was able to get her into the holding cell with Jarvis Sr. Following closing arguments, the jury found the defendant guilty on 2 counts of aggravated battery being based on the public property and 1 count of official misconduct, but not guilty on the 2 counts of aggravated battery premised upon knowing Bourgeois was 60 years of age following the defendant's unsuccessful motion for a new trial. Okay, so he filed a motion to appeal. Those are essentially the facts of it. Let's go ahead and I don't know. It's gonna be kind of interesting. I'm just going through checking out some of the comments. Yeah. I'm just going through checking out some of the comments. I just bought a cigar 38 pistol and I had to pass a federal background check. It took 3 days. It depends what state you're in. I bought something in another state and down south, and that background check came back in like 3 minutes. Let's see. If there's no spelled out with approved applicant, most municipalities have stipulations. Thornton and Dalton lack proper ordinances. They shooting everything from the hip. All right, not to mention that Lacey lied on bankruptcy records, so he's also extremely dishonest and no morals, which I agree. The fact that he didn't release the entire surveillance video lets you know he was covering up for his son, which he was. I don't disagree with that. It's called abuse of the infirm. Let's see. It's called aggravated assault, aggravated battery, false arrest, false imprisonment. I agree. His father claims that the state attorney completely misrepresented the facts of this case. I seriously doubt that. Ronald Burge Sr. appointment, null and void. Trustees have restraining order voiding this appointment. Judge just removed Tiff new chief on. Okay, nice. We're going to pull up that video. As always, gotta give extra time and a shout out to those who drop a super chat. Gossip on the street is okay. Gossip on the street is that the top cop and Michael Smith and the lawyers have a temporary restraining order for illegal hire in Dolton Village, so they cannot sit on the podium. I know I did. Everybody's been saying that in the chat. Let me see if I can go ahead and cue that video up so we can dive into it. Let's see. Burge is decertified by the state and is eligible to chief. And I did see a news story where they said that his certification wasn't active. I'm not sure what that means, because when you say something is, it said it was inactive. Inactive could be a bunch of things. I didn't dive into it, but I did see a news article that says his law enforcement certification was inactive. I don't know if it's inactive due to, like, if I don't pay my bar dues, my ability to practice law would become inactive. I don't know if it's inactive due to I have a disciplinary complaint that was filed with the Bar Association and I'm in an active status because they said I suck. How much time did he have to serve? Let me see. I got to look it up because I just went through the court case. For both, they had to go through these extremes over Tiffany Wild West behavior. Friendly reminder, pause every 30 seconds. Okay. Cool. I appreciate that. Shout out to that. I've been having a couple, though, where I just kind of let them run and play through. Mostly with news stories, you won't get that. So if it's a news story, you generally won't get a copyright strike. The only one I got when I did like a sports story, the NFL, when I did Tyreek Hill's arrest, the NFL was pressed, but I actually won on both of those. So still transitioning from MySpace. Damn. Oh yeah, it's all good, bro. I know. I used to be on MySpace. I was one of the last few people to get off MySpace. Yeah, and so I'll look up to see what the status of it is. But let's talk about it. I think as a matter of course, y'all let me know in the chat. Just we're not talking about the validity of the appointment. We're just talking about with what we know about each person's background, with what we know about Louis Lacey, with what we know about Ronald Burge Sr. If I had to pick, if someone said you got to pick one of these two to be your top cop and a city that you're the mayor of, I'm definitely not picking Louis Lacey. Like that dude finessed a widow out of like thousands of dollars, and it's documented in court. He has multiple instances of alleged police misconduct where lives were fucking lost. Like, no, like, okay, say what we want, and I'm not giving Ronald Burge Sr. any praises. According to you all in the chat, looks like a temporary restraining order is in place to stop that appointment. But say what you want in the chat. I think he is a much better nominee. And I think that he did what parents have been doing for ages. He was standing up for his son, even though his son was wrong as hell and guilty as hell. Let me look and see if I can see how much time was ultimately served in that instance. We'll now follow Dalton's actions on illegal hires. Okay, I just gonna nice. I've been putting in the whole department. I agree. I just don't think, is it worthwhile to fight all of this shit in court? Because every time, who is paying for the lawsuits that the township files as for any conduct that she does as supervisor? Who is paying for a lawsuit that is filed when she does something as mayor that the trustees or the council or whatever they call it in the Village of Dolton disagrees with? It's all fucking taxpayers' money. I'm gonna just be honest. Like, that's actually, which would be the worst concern? Having this guy appointed as the top cop for a period of October, November, December, January, for what, 4, maybe 5 months, or filing another lawsuit that is the taxpayers are going to have to pay for, that may or may not get any type of outcome. Like, I don't know. I mean, I just look at it as, yo, y'all had a bad chief of police for a long ass time. Y'all can eat one for 5 more months. Stop fucking wasting the taxpayer money filing lawsuits where even if you win, the burden is on the taxpayers. That's kind of my thought. What do y'all think? It's cheaper to file court papers than to pay payroll for an illegal hire. How will they get the back payroll? How will they get back the payroll illegally appointed? That's a good argument. It's a fair argument. I don't know, man. Payroll for litigation. All right, all of the other cops are going to be there, right? All the other cops are already going to have their job. They may have somebody acting, but she appointed somebody. So you got the person at the top. He's probably going to have a deputy who he would want to appoint. So when we're looking at who the actual illegal hires are, it's maybe going to be 2 people. It's going to be the person who is appointed and maybe the person who, because, you know, when you appoint somebody, the first thing you do is, I need to get a deputy who's going to follow my marching orders. So he's going to put his guy in and it is number 2. Those are probably the 2 positions that you're looking at that are going to be the illegal hires. Now, I don't know if the pay loss in salary would necessarily be less than the cost of litigation, because the litigation could go on forever depending on how long they want to fight it. And at the end of the day, the taxpayers ain't got no fucking money. I'm not a fan of continuing to burn taxpayer money. Y'all had a shit police chief for 3.5 years. You could eat one for another 5 months. I mean, me personally, I think if I had to weigh those options, I might be like, yo, we're not going to take this to court. Y'all let me know. It cost over $200K overtime for the last one. Oh, yeah, and I agree. That was a fair point. It was $200,000 in overtime. But is that something? I don't know. It's a tough call because it could go either way. Hey, what's up? How everything go? Come here. All right. Everything went good? All right. I just wanted to say what's up. Why you looking crazy? All right. I just wanted to check on you, make sure you were straight.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. I don't know. I think get him out of here. Come on, Alexis. They saw him before. I held his little raggedy butt up. Take him with you. Mikey, go. Thank you. He was sitting in here being annoying anyway. I don't know. I think the litigation is probably more burdensome for me personally. I mean, but I think that's a good point. I think you made a good point, common sense. It all depends. There are good officers in Dalton's, but their hands are tied due to Henyard's reign. And I generally agree with that. Like, I don't know. I don't think, can this dude actually be worse than what Louis Lacey was? Is it really worth the cost of litigation for him being in this role for another 5 months? I don't know. It's debatable. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's why the AG needs to drag her down, because she's ruining the AG is not going to be the one to do it, though. Now that it is already a federal investigation. So we already know, Enrique, shout out to you for the comment. It's definitely a federal investigation. The AG isn't going to do anything. Most times, honestly, once you confirm and know that it's a federal investigation, I've been on both sides of the fence, but they'll normally be out and like, hey, y'all don't do any investigating. Because one, like I said in the other video, isn't that the general look of a state agency investigating state officials, it just it doesn't pass the smells test. The chances of impropriety and all sorts of shenanigans and tomfoolery are going to be high. The state elected official trying to investigate another elected official, they probably was on the same ticket. You got all of these intricacies that could be complicated and create issues. So normally in cases like that, once there's a federal investigation, the federal government will just be like, yo, can y'all pause y'all investigation? We have something going on. We don't want y'all to do something to ruin it. And 98% of the time, the state will be like, hey, y'all got it. We'll bow out gracefully. I can only think of one instance when I was on the state side where we were like, nah, we're going to investigate this and keep going no matter what y'all do. We just going to have parallel investigations, a federal one and a state one. That rarely happens in shit, my damn near 14-year career, almost damn near 15-year career. I only seen it happen. I only had it happen in the case that I had once. And on the federal side, we make those calls all the time. Like, yo, y'all working something on this person? Or what we'll do is the easiest thing to do if the AG is working something on them, we'll say, hey, suspend your investigation. Come on over here, team up with us because we could use your state subpoenas to maybe get some stuff a little bit faster. And we'll just call it a task force or a strike force or give it some fancy ass name to make it look cool. So that's normally what happens. The point is to get it on the record. I agree. The trustees have the money now. What's left of it, Tiff couldn't pay that cop if she wanted to. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think because they did certain things with not passing the budget, I think they limited the ability. And I don't know if this is a fact, but I do believe it put some limitations on the ability to pay the overinflated overtime to the cops. We saw the trustees at one point finally square away the fire department because they was getting fucked the past 3 years, not getting no raises, actually getting decreases in their budget. So I just think that they're putting this, if this cop was allowed to be in place for the last 5 months, 6 months. I mean, now if she won re-election, that'll throw a monkey wrench in my in my whole point. But I think if he's clearly, I think I'm not saying he's a great cop, but he's not Louis Lacey, which I think is a plus. I think he's better than what Louis Lacey is, just from what I can see from the record of litigation associated with each person. But I don't think he would have as much power as well. I think the trustees and everybody has kind of did a decent job of trying to snatch some of the power back from the executive, from the mayor. So I don't know. I just think the cost of litigation is a pain in the ass because it's just the taxpayers' money. The taxpayers is getting tied up. That shit could go on forever. Every court appearance, every time an attorney make a phone call, they bill in 7 or 15-minute increments. They charging $350, $500 an hour, and if their assistant do something, they probably charging $200 an hour. I think that shit will just be. I think the cost will be way more than paying this dude and his deputy for a 6-month period. In reality, who wants to give Michael Smith $17 for his McDonald's meal? Yeah, insurance liability may have been a concern. I agree, and insurance liability is also a cost that's going to be eaten by the taxpayers as well. Hey, I appreciate that comment. Thanks, Norm. I appreciate that because I get so many comments. They be like, bro, you talk too much. I be like, dude, it say attorney reaction on the top of the thumbnail in yellow and black letters. What the fuck? Yeah, Norm, good point. Because if he has a history of criminal or questionable activity, the insurance could reasonably decline any bad acts these appointees do as a representative of the municipality. Yeah, but that's actually a great point. Common sense. That's a very great point that you just made. But I don't know if he's less of an insurance risk than the predecessor. So I think he's definitely less of insurance risk than the predecessor who we saw. This is part of the restraining order in Dolton. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I could pull that up. Since we on this, let me see if I can go it and get that out of the way right now. Let me see. I can't talk and type at the same time. Ba 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 ba. Nice. Y'all are on it, man. Shout out to y'all, man. A big shout out to y'all. A big round of applause to everybody. All that good stuff. Because y'all are on it. Let's go ahead and cue this up real quick so we could try to get the latest and the greatest news All right. Let's close that out because that's going to distract me. The bitter battle for control of South Suburban Dolton took another turn Wednesday evening when trustees opposed to Mayor Tiffany Henyard said that they were granted a key ruling against limiting Henyard's power. Trustees asked Cook County judge for a temporary restraining order blocking Henyard's recent appointment of a new police chief, village manager, and village attorney. They argue Henyard can't unilaterally make appointments without their consent, which is true. The court's decision to void Mayor Henyard's unlawful appointment sends a clear message. We are here to uphold the law and safeguards the trust you place in us, wrote senior trustee Jason House, who announced he'll challenge Henyard for mayor in the spring election. The power struggle has been on full display during Dolton's meeting, which frequently devolved into shouting matches between Henyard and trustees. This follows nearly a year of WGN investigative reporting on questionable spending, first-class travel, contracts, and other concerns in both the municipality Henyard runs. So, hey, shout out to you all for bringing this to my attention. And, I'm going to be honest, this is great. Shout out to the trustees for finally growing a backbone and stop being jellyfish. This is the shit they should have been doing all along. I've said this 1,000 times. Not only is Tiffany Henyard the problem, I think it's clear, it's patently obvious that she has issues, fiscal irresponsibility, not doing things by the book, but the board of trustees are also at fault here. And right now, it took all of this. It took 3 years of bullshit. It took 3 years of digging millions of dollars worth of holes in a budget for a town that was in a surplus. It took federal indictments and subpoenas. It took FOIA requests and litigation and temporary restraining orders for the trustees to realize that collectively, you all have more power than the mayor. The only way that the trustees, the city council, will not have more power than the mayor if they aren't on the same page. And I think the reason that they weren't on the same page, because you had a handful of people who still was waiting for whatever promises may have been done or whatever agreements were potentially agreed to be fulfilled. But the board of trustees throughout this all has a certain level of accountability. Hey, it's dope that they're actually doing their job, but they could have been doing these temporary restraining orders years ago to get Keith Freeman not appointed if they didn't want him there. They could have been doing all of these tools and using all of these vehicles. So, hey, shout out to them for finally pulling their head out of the sand or their head out of the ass or whatever you want to call it. But it appears that they're trying to do something to look out for the best interest of them, because I think they realize that their seats are also in jeopardy, but also in the best interest of the village as well. So I think that's dope as well. Let's go ahead and hit up some of the comments real quick. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody. Can you name the felonies? The felonies that Tiffany Henyard would likely be indicted for? Oh, man, I think we did a video on this before. I have to find we did a video on this before because it was one that I saw and I couldn't even remember. See, now you're asking me to do it off the cuff. That's not how my brain works at this age. I'll see if I can find a PowerPoint before I close out that I did and pull it up. But I did a video of the top 4 or 5 charges that Tiffany Henyard would probably be charged with. And one of them was something that I never heard before ever in life. Yeah. How can you hire a monster like that? People don't know the monster that they're going to get until they generally, well, sometimes people hire the monster. But like I said, I don't know. Y'all let me know. But when I looked at videos of debates and things that were at issue from Tiffany Henyard during her time when she was on the board of trustees, most times she was on the right side of the argument. Now, I do believe that the cop that she put in place isn't the greatest cop in the world, but I think he's a lot better than the predecessor. And I don't see anything. How could I put this without sounding crazy? I got to think about this, how I say it. Sometimes a person's blindfold support for their child may not necessarily be 100% a 100% indicator of how that person would potentially perform on the job. Okay, like okay, prime example. I know a situation where uh, a friend of mine was a big time CEO. Like I'll talk about maybe like right under the vice president at a big time place, and they got their child hired, and the child worked there for a couple of years. And the minute this person retired, they immediately fired the child. They was like, "Get out of here." Now, was that probably a hire that was a nepotism hire? Yeah. Was that probably a hire that was good? Probably not. Were there better candidates? Absolutely, there were probably better candidates. But was that one instance of blindfold support for their child indicative of their ability to do the job? No. They hit on 90%. 90, they batting 90%. 90% of the time they knocking it out of the park. But 10% of the time they was like, let me give my child a shot, and hopefully they could get it together once they on board. And that's just what it is. So I don't know. I agree that he has. I agree that blindfold support for the son, when we looked at those facts, because he was guilty as fuck. That's why that's why he was found guilty. I do agree that it gives me cause to pause, but when it comes to how people do things with their kids, is a certain level of deference I give to an extent. Tiffany knows the state isn't going to investigate themselves, so she's going to pull a puffy move and just let it play out. Facts. The lack of budget passing per Norwood allowed the restriction on what Tiffany could spend money on without board approval. The lack of a budget forces a board poll for additional expenditures. That's an absolute great point. That's actually a great point, and that's how they took their control back. It was a smart move, a great way to take their control back, and that's why because of that statement right there, common sense, I think litigation is probably a little bit more problematic. I think litigation would be more problematic. Now, a temporary restraining order, I don't count that as litigation, because literally a temporary restraining order is a one-page thing. You fill it out, you give it to the court, they make a determination like immediately, but I don't think they should go in any in-depth litigation. But his son will be running amok. Yes and no. Because yes, there is in that instance, there is potential for the son. Let's say that business example, there is potential for that child to go off the reins. But normally, if the parent is in place, they're going to try to attempt to put some. They're going to try to put the number one job of a parent is, hey, I want my child to fail, but I want my child to fail in a controlled environment. And that is true. Like I want my children to fail, especially my son. Oh man, you got to learn. It ain't no shit free out here. Don't nobody give a damn about you. I told my kids all the time, the people in this house, the opinion you have, the people in this house are probably going to be people who care the most about it. Once you leave this house, most people aren't going to give a fuck. I know it sounds cold, but it is what it is. The people in this house care more about what you're going to do more than anybody else. That's just the nature of what it is. But generally, as a parent, you want your child to fail because there's lessons from that. It develops some toughness, some character, a little bit of perseverance, but you want them to fail in a controlled environment. And that same concept holds true in a nepotism environment. LeBron James, if his son fails and isn't the player that he believed his son to be, he's cool with that. He just wants his son to fail in a controlled environment. And what is a controlled environment? A controlled environment is here on the Lakers. I can control it. I maybe can get him some playing time. If he in the game with me, I can get him the ball where he knows how to best perform. I have the ability to try my best to keep him out of harm's way on this job. So I do agree that the son could run amok, but there's also some protections that could be put in place, by the parent in those nepotism situations. Absolutely worth any and all legislation against the illegal activity of this administration, worth every penny to save money from Henyard. Okay, shout out to you, facts. Let's see. Can you name the misdemeanors? See, now I got to go back and see if I could find. Let me go back and see. Because I don't see when I create PowerPoints. I think it was a PowerPoint too. When I create PowerPoints, I generally don't save them. I might have saved this one though. Huh. Interesting. I'm looking. I don't think I got some of them here. I got some of them here, but I don't got all of them. Some of the felonies that I had listed, let's see, because I didn't save this and I pulled this from a different video. Let's see, not that one. That's a different case. All right, one that we had was wire fraud, any fraudulent activity that involves internet communication or that is conducted in whole or in part over the internet can lead to wire fraud. Using the internet to execute any scheme or artifice to defraud or obtain money, property by any means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises, carry up to a $500,000 fine and 20 years of federal imprisonment pursuant to 18 USC 1343. And wire fraud essentially would deal with any transfers of money. If there was any monies that were transferred illegally from, if let's say a good example would be, let's say the charity that she doesn't have anything to do with, Tiffany Henyard Cares, let's say she did in fact, as alleged, strong arm businesses to, hey, donate to my charity or you won't get your license. And those businesses, in fact, donate to that charity. That could be an instance of wire fraud because it's funds that were illegally obtained. The internet was used to do it by transferring the funds from one person to another. So wire fraud was one. Another one that we had up here. This one was funny because this is going to happen after the fact. Once there's a federal investigation, her attorney probably would advise her not to do any interview with authorities. But Tiffany Henyard strikes me as someone who thinks if she can talk to people, she can persuade them. It's kind of an narcissistic trait. But if she does, in fact, have a conversation with law enforcement, one that I thought was fun that could happen on the back end of all this was making false statements to a federal agent. Another one that we had was conspiracy to commit a fraud. Essentially, we looked at two or more persons make a plan. They do a substantial act in the furtherance of a scheme. So if she had, an example would be if she had communication, that same example we used before with the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation, where she allegedly leaned on business owners and withheld their licenses in exchange for donations to this charity that she asserts she had no part of. If she had communication with any other person about that transaction, she could potentially be on the hook for conspiracy charges. It said conspiration, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read all of that. Let's see. What else did we have? This one I don't think we have. We probably should have. Normally, when you have financial crimes, the good people who have financial crimes always get charged with tax evasion because they actually make an attempt to not just steal money and put it in their account, but they make an attempt to steal money, then launder it through a vehicle that's legal, and then have that money legally deposited into their account. Then when that money is deposited into their account, on the back end, they make bogus pay stubs, bogus income earning statements to justify that extra money in the account. That's how people who do financial crimes always end up with tax evasion. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't know if the operation that I don't know with all these allegations. I don't give Tiffany Henyard personally that much credit to. I don't think she has the resources or the discretion to actually be able to effectively launder money. And if she did, I don't know if she had the actual resources and wherewithal to be able to develop all of the fraudulent things needed to make it look like a legitimate transaction for tax purposes. This whole shit appears to be just people shooting from the hip at any given time, in my personal opinion. It was another one that was a weird charge that only politicians are charged with, but I can't find it right now because I don't have it on this PowerPoint. I edited it, didn't save it. I used it for that video, then I closed it out, and now I just kind of got my old talking points from a previous video on here. Let's see. The Dolton politics is going crazy about that restraining order. That was a smart ass move. A TRO can stop things immediately. People put out a video about you, and that shit may not be true. If you're in a domestic violence situation, a temporary restraining order is one of the most effective tools in the justice system. Did they get the time? If that dude, I don't know, man. Y'all be hunting things down. If that dude's still driving that Tahoe, that's actually hilarious. I heard they did take the Tahoe back. Okay, cool. Shout out to them for getting the Tahoe back. That's crazy. She loved them Tahoes. Better late than too late. I agree. Tiffany Henyard wants to be treated as a queen, but she is only a drama queen of failure and things she touches. I absolutely agree. Who got the Tahoe? Tiffany lives in a bubble, especially in Thornton Township. She will get away as long as her rubber stamps Jerry Jones and Everett Gray purposely doesn't show up for the meetings like yesterday. I agree. Local politics is messy, and it's always you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It took Tiffany to wake up and smell the coffee and realize this is not a glory title. Also, they could have been impeached if they did not do their job. Let's see. Yeah. I would have told them to call the police. Facts. They're trying to turn all of those vehicles in to stop excessive payment obligations. Oh, that's a smart move. Seeing what they can recoup on the back end. That's smart. Yeah. She thinks she is hiring a person she can influence. Look, no one will hire you, but I hired you, and so you owe me. I agree with that 100%. I'm not saying one of the that's actually a great point. One of the I mean, that's if y'all never watched, y'all need to go check out the documentary on Netflix. It's called How to Be a Dictator. It's called How to Be a Dictator, and that's 101. You have to have people you can influence. You have to have yes men and people who feel like they are obligated to do what you want to do. Marilyn Conley, fight, fight, fight. Tiffany is a quid pro quo girl. All politicians are, but she's ridiculous. She thinks she's slick, pandering to the seniors to buy their votes because senior citizens are a major voting group. Yo, I agree completely. That was a point that I've been making all along. When this election come around, it's going to be close because those seniors who've been winning those TVs and toaster ovens and Keurig machines that technically the village couldn't give out because they were over $10. We did a video on that. Those seniors don't care about that. All they know is this lady is, well, no, I'm not going to say that because seniors are very smart in their voting, but never underestimate the power of giving people shit. Never underestimate the power of giving people shit. It was one of the most, I thought it was actually genius. I remember when very few presidents actually handed out checks. I think George Bush handed out a check. Donald Trump handed out a check. Most time when times get hard, the checks go to Wall Street. Those are the only two that I remember actually handed out like a stimulus check. And Donald Trump was adamant. He said, yo, No, I don't care. You can have the Secretary of the Treasury name on that check, but write my name on that shit too, because I want them to know who did this. Never underestimate the power of giving people free shit or giving people things that they believe to be free. Because believe you, those gifts cost money that taxpayers are paying. Just like any stimulus check, a stimulus check, government ain't got no money. Only money the government got is what they take from you, me, us, the taxpayers. So anytime you get anything from the government is a cost on it, but never underestimate the power of giving gifts. People love shit. They love having stuff. Tiffany will get her away in the township because it's a 2-against-3. Even though Everett and Jones know she's corrupt, that's a major blow. I agree. Like Tiffany said, somebody going to jail and it would have been my child. Facts. I could see Miss Dot's trying to impose. I'm the administrator. I'm trying to bark orders. Possibly why they did it and figured if we do it to DO dots, if we do it to dots, we do it to all while we're here spending the money. Is allegedly Everett is under investigation. Norm, is that a? I'm assuming if at this point, I think anybody who's involved in them politics, if they're under investigation, it's probably going to be a federal investigation. Please do a vid for yesterday's township meeting. Henyard didn't even listen to her lawyer. I'm gonna do that. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow because Friday I think I'm gonna have it. I gotta out for that comment. I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow because Friday I'm gonna have a live a guest on where we're gonna talk about GoFundMe culture and Adrian Peterson going broke after making $100 million, which is wow. But yeah, we definitely gonna touch bases on it. Man, this thing is crazy. Let's see. Dot should be banned from attending those meetings. Ah, nice. Yeah, we might dive into that tomorrow. Tomorrow we might do the coverage of this week's shit show and take a look at the temporary restraining order. That might be something we could do for tomorrow. Lisa Lee, the Thornton meeting, I was shocked they allowed that man to be sworn, and luckily he came there with no harm. Tiffany is incapable of talking her way out of narratives she can't control. That's why she doesn't take questions from reporters. I think that it's twofold. I think that she believes she can talk her way out of most things. I think that she believes she can talk her way out of most things because I think that in most instances she honestly believes that she's the smartest person in the room, and that's a trait that's Henyard is totally responsible for actions against Paul. That's a trait that normally defendants, when I was a defense attorney, defendants that I represented that did financial crimes, they all thought they were the smartest people in the room. Whether it was a Ponzi scheme or an embezzlement or misappropriation case, they all thought they were the smartest person in the room. One guy in particular, because he went to Harvard, I was like, this dude, I think he ended up representing himself and going to prison for a long time. Now that I think about it, I say, why and how is Henyard hiring an out-of-state attorney to represent the village that has no experience? Oh my God. I agree. Tiffany is not that finesse to be doing money laundering. Yeah, and somebody made a point in another video. If you were a world-renowned money launderer, would you actually launder her money? Like, no. As messy as she is, that is terrible. That would be a terrible idea. Seniors are consistent people who show up to the poll. Facts. It is not so much about giving out with the seniors, but more about the appearance of the narrative that young person cares about us old folks. I agree with that 100%. I don't know if I told y'all the story, but I have an uncle who is, I think he's in his late 80s. And like maybe this summer, maybe like June or July, after a conversation with my father, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out there and hang out with him damn, I might not. I was like, I'm gonna go out there and hang out with them, whenever I get opportunities to watch sporting events. And they just like the company. They like knowing that there's somebody out there who actually give a damn about them. So I agree with that 100%. See, now y'all, y'all know how to, let's see. I can't type and talk at this same time. So I'm just telling y'all. Let's see. Uh, 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 uh. No, I'm on the wrong shit. Give me 1 second. Y'all bear with a brother. Let's see. No, don't want to go there. Yo, if y'all could find it, drop the link in the chat if y'all could find it. I'm trying to pull this thing up. I'm trying to find this restraining order now that y'all talked about it. Let's see. All right, let's go there. Okay, I think I got it. Let's see. Damn, they got some meat in this motherfucker. Oh, nah. Oh, whoa. That's longer than the Cassie lawsuit. It's longer. This thing long. We gonna go through it and we gonna go through it and skim through it. Let's see. No, we don't want to go there. That's the wrong ad to the stream. Let's go there. Let's make that a little bit bigger. All right, emergency motion and order, TRO, preliminary injunction. I'm just skimming through to see where. Okay, so they putting okay. Oh yeah, this got some. Yeah, they had this written for a long time. They were just waiting for her. They had this written for a long time. They were just waiting for her to do the next some fuck shit. they were just waiting for her to do something stupid so they could drop it. I'm just going through looking at it. Legal standard. Nah. Argument. Plaintiff have a clear and ascertainable right in need of protection. Yeah, plaintiff comprised of a majority of the board of trustees of the Village of Dolton. Blah blah blah. The village administrator shall be an employee who shall be appointed or removed by the mayor with the advice or consent of the board of trustees. They cited the statute, and we talked about that before. That's normally how I go at every level, the state level, the federal level. We talked about how I thought it was smart and Trump couldn't get people confirmed through the Congress. So he essentially made a lot of interim directors as agency heads and just kind of left them there indefinitely. And it looked like Tiffany Henyard was essentially taking a play out of that playbook. Yeah, they got all the statutes in here. The mayor or president, a case may be by and with the advice and consent of the city council or the board of trustees. Yeah. Oh, it's not too bad. Damn, the exhibits are what? Ah, okay. So yeah, okay. We could go through this real quick. This not too bad. It's the exhibits, which is like 50 something pages, which is wild. But it says, all right, let's speed through this real quick while we on here. All right, facts. Plaintiff Jason House, Brittany Norwood, Kiana Belcher, Tammy Brown are 4 of the 6 elected trustees for the Village of Dolton and make up a majority of the Board of Trustees. Tiffany Henyard is the mayor of the Village of Dolton. Keith Freeman is the duly appointed village administrator of the Village of Dolton. And Michael Smith, Angela Lockett, and Ronald Burge Sr. are each individuals that were unlawfully appointed by Mayor Henyard to the position, 2 positions within the village. Beginning on July of 2024, Village Administrator Freeman started issuing directives to village employees to comply with certain laws and ordinances passed by the village board. For example, Freeman noted employees that all requests from Mayor Henyard for services, documents, and deployment of resources were to be made in writing, directed department heads to remove all signage containing Mayor Henyard's name and likeness in accordance with the village ordinance, instructed department heads that all village expenditures incurred by the mayor's office must be approved by the board of trustees, advised the police department that the mayor's security detail had been revoked by ordinance, directed the issuance of permits to Dolton Park District that had been held up by the mayor for no legitimate reason, and advised department heads that Tiffany Henyard Cares vehicle stickers would no longer be sold by the village. That's wild that she was doing that. Upon information and belief, once Mayor Henyard learned of these actions, she began attempts to terminate Freeman as the village administrator. Mayor Henyard ordered the IT director to disable Administrator Freeman's email account so he could not conduct village business. On 2 occasions, Mayor Henyard ordered Janice Johnson, the director of administrative services, to draft a termination letter to Keith Freeman. On one such occasion, Mayor Henyard ordered her boyfriend and the former deputy police chief to stand outside Ms. Johnson's office so she could not leave until she drafted said letter. That's wild. They strong-arming people. Ms. Johnson refused the mayor's efforts to draft a termination letter to Administrator Freeman. At the August 5th, 2024 village board meeting, Mayor Henyard called for a vote to terminate Administrator Freeman. No such motion was made, and therefore no action to terminate Administrator Freeman was taken. Despite the lack of board actions, Mayor Henyard announced Keith Freeman is fired. On about August 12th, 2024, Mayor Henyard, personal attorney with no affiliation to the Village of Dolton, sent a letter to Ms. Johnson advising her that Keith Freeman's employment with the Village of Dolton had been terminated and requesting that she take all necessary actions to effectuate Freeman's termination. That's wild as shit that the attorney actually did that. That's wild. Mayor Henyard did not receive the consent of the Board of Trustees prior to Freeman's removal as required by Dolton Ordinance 93-027 and did not report the reason for Freeman's purported termination to plaintiffs between 5 and 10 days after his purported termination as required by Sections 181, subsection B of the Dolton Code, blah, 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 blah. In fact, the board expressly rejected Mayor Henyard's removal of Keith Freeman by failing to move to terminate him at the August 5th, 2024 meeting. Out of an abundance of caution, the board voted to reinstate Freeman as village administrator at the September 12th, 2024 special meeting. So this is actually interesting. A regular meeting of the Dolton Board of Trustees was scheduled for September 3rd, 2024 at the Village Hall. Mayor Tiffany Henyard had refused to place any action items requested by plaintiffs on the regular Village Board agenda. Additionally, the Village Hall capacity had proven to be inadequate to accommodate the increasing members of the public and media outlets that frequently attend Village Board meetings. The Illinois Attorney General determined in a September 3rd, 2024 binding opinion that the location and setup of the Village Hall at the June 3rd, 2024 meeting and July 1st, 2024 meetings were not open and convenient in violation of the Open Meeting Act. The Attorney General found that the village had advanced notice of capacity issues but failed to move the meetings to a larger room, offer standing room or overflow capacity, or otherwise attempt to make the meeting reasonably accessible. Therefore, in order to consider important village business and comply with the Open Meeting Act, plaintiffs canceled the September 3rd meeting and scheduled a special meeting for September 12th on 2024 at the Park District facility, which has a larger capacity. Now they're cooking with Crisco. Now the trustees, now they're working generally as a collective group. Well, the majority of them are working as a collective group, cooking with Crisco. That's an old ass saying. That's how y'all know I'm up there. Plaintiff provided notice and an agenda for the September 12th meeting. Mayor Henyard, trustee Andrew Holmes, trustee Stanley Brown, and several members of the public appeared at Village Hall on September 3rd. No quorum was established as required for a meeting, and the meeting was never called to order. Mayor Henyard proceeded to call for department heads, report, and then had her personal attorney, Bo Brentley, speak about the attack on Mayor Henyard, the corruption of the Board of Trustees, and the purported termination of Keith Freeman as village administrator. Mr. Brentley's speech was riddled with misrepresentations of the Open Meetings Act, Illinois' Constitution, Illinois' Municipal Code, and court orders. Mayor Henyard then stated she was appointing Lakeside Legal and attorney Angela Lockett as the village attorney. Mayor Henyard then stated she was appointing Michael Smith as the new village administrator. She then represented that the village had a new village attorney and village administrator. No vote was taken by the Board of Trustees on the appointment of Lockett and Smith. Plaintiffs have now been presented with and have not consented to the appointments of Lockett as village attorney or Smith as village administrator. Since September 3rd, 2024, Lockett has issued correspondence purporting to be the village attorney and requested, among other things, the litigation files to be turned over to her office. Since September 3rd, 2024, Smith had cleared out Freeman's office and has changed the lock so that Freeman cannot access his own office. Smith also represented to fire the department's Smith also represented to the fire department that their union contract that was approved at the September 12th meeting not be honored, and an unfair labor practice has since been filed against the union, by the union against the village. Man, hey, I'm with the fire department, man. Fuck that, they getting screwed over or trying to get screwed over again. The September 20, 2024, Mayor Henyard purported to appoint Ronald Burge Sr. as new chief of police. This did not occur during the open meeting, and the Board of Trustees did not vote to consent to this appointment. Plaintiffs have not been presented with or consented to the nomination of Ronald Burge Sr. as police chief. Defendant Burge has held himself out as police chief, taking a police department vehicle as his own and given directives to Dolton police officers. Legal standard. That's just the legal standard for a temporary restraining officer. Essentially, 1, to clearly ascertain the right need of protection. 2, irreparable injury in the absence of an injunction. 3, no adequate remedy at law exists. And 4, the likelihood of success on the merits. This is well written, though. Argument. Plaintiffs have a clear and ascertainable right. Okay, and then in the argument that supports their clear and ascertainable right, they essentially outline the numerous village codes that essentially outline language that says, with the consent and advice of the Board of Trustees, by and with the advice and consent of the City Council or Board of Trustees. With regard to prong 2, irreparable injury will occur in the absence of injunctive relief. And it says, irreparable harm, this is a court case citing. Irreparable harm does not mean an injury that is beyond repair or beyond compensation damages, but rather denotes transgressions of a continuing nature. Let's get down. Okay, here's where the argument is. Plaintiffs have established their protected interest and consent to the appointment of the village attorney, village administrator, and police chief, and as a protected interest in the procedure for the removal and restoration of the village administrator. Angela Lockett, Michael Smith, and Ronnie Burge Sr. were not properly appointed and therefore have no authority to conduct village business or act in a manner on behalf of the village. Nonetheless, these individuals have been holding themselves out as duly appointed village officials, issuing directives, advising employees that Keith Freeman has no authority, and causing mass chaos, confusion, and frustration amongst village staff to the detriment of the citizens of the village of Dolton. I think the biggest thing here that they didn't add is with all of them, but especially with the police chief. You have a citizen acting as a de facto government state law enforcement authority. That'll be a big ass lawsuit. So shout out to them. They didn't make that point, but that's another point. And with prong 3, plaintiffs have no adequate remedy at law. A remedy at law is considered inadequate when monetary damages cannot compensate the injury. That's impossible in this case because these guys are trying to enter into contracts, determine budget items, monetary policies, and things like that. So I think that's a good argument. It says plaintiff's statutory right to consent to appointment and removals cannot be measured monetarily, and plaintiffs have no adequate remedy to her repeated ongoing violations of municipal law. 4 is plaintiffs will likely prevail on the merits, what I think is obvious. Plaintiffs are seeking a declaratory and injunctive relief, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, hey, that's actually dope. I know. I think that's actually dope. That was a very, very well written temporary restraining order. I think it was dope that they wrote it out. I love y'all, but I'm not backtracking through all of those comments. I missed a lot. I missed a lot, but it's getting late. But I think that was a very well written restraining order. It was very detailed. It hit all of the points on the head. That's why the court fucking granted it. And hey, shout out to the board of trustees for actually doing something that was productive for the citizens. Embarrassing how Tiff be flaunting that lady's husband around as her daughter's father. Hey, people, if you don't got no morals when it comes to the residents of the town that you are mandated to perform in their best interest, you ain't gonna have no morals or responsibility for anybody else. Yeah. The alphabet boys and girls come help Thornton Township sooner. They come and they en route. It can take years to investigate. Frankly, it would not be a surprise to me to go well into 2025 before anything else is done. Once they have proof of illegal activity. And normally it's generally, I don't know in all cases, but I know where I'm at, there's generally, and I saw this in news articles to confirm it, but generally they have kind of we don't want to fuck with people 60 days inside 60 days of an election. So I anticipate that there's going to be something that happened prior to the election occurring. That's me personally. Again, we have to be mindful. We all agree Tiffany is unethical, but it's a matter of how much. It's a matter of how much is she worth to pursue criminally to set an example. And I think the other thing too, because like some of the things I don't even think are criminal by nature, like the excessive trip stuff. I'm like, that may be is actually quite common for like a state IG or attorney general to investigate something and they don't see any criminality there. And then they give it to like the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. And they'll say, hey, this wasn't illegal, but it was a violation of an ethics clause or ethics statute or regulation and policy. And because of that, you have a fine, a sanction, maybe some remedial training. So not everything, a lot of stuff has criminal culpability, but not everything necessarily has criminal culpability. Also, Tiffany tried to sneak and buy the Tahoe back when she wanted approval from Thornton for $89,000. Carmen caught that. That's funny. The attorney knew her appointment was not legal. Nor since she was out of state, the reality, how much did she pursue the ordinance of a township to give any sound legal advice? She looked like a figurehead lawyer. Yeah, lawyers are good at even me. I just told somebody else. I said today, somebody said something in a room full of attorneys, and I was like, whoa. I think they said, I didn't even think of that. It was a problem, and a solution was given, and their response was, I never even thought of that. And my thought immediately, I was like, yo, you never say I never thought of that in a room full of attorneys. You say, hey, we're exploring all alternatives. That's one of the alternatives. But I mean, you say anything, but I never thought of that. But attorneys are good at, the saying is, you know what I know, you know what I know what I know, but you'll never know what I don't know. That's kind of the general saying how it goes. Like, hey, I need to do some more research on that. Yeah. Yeah, if Tiffany don't go to prison, some community service hours at that skatery, scraping the gum up. Hey, shout out to, that's why I want the arrest to occur. I want the arrest to occur at the skating ring during the holidays, sometime in November or December. That's funny. Yeah. It wasn't ethical for Tiff to mention Carmen and Keith Freeman had relationships allegedly at the meeting last night. Damn, that shit juicy. We're gonna dive into that tomorrow. I know tomorrow is Thursday night football, but one, I'm not a Cowboys fan, and two, they probably gonna lose. I'm gonna just be honest with y'all. Don't come at for me, Cowboy fans. Did she give the Tahoe to the fake chief, or was it really giving it back to the dealership? I'm assuming that it probably went to the fake chief. But yo, shout out to y'all. I appreciate everybody that tuned in to this. And shout out to y'all for giving me the info on the temporary restraining order. Y'all actually saved me from making a separate video about it. I might just pull that out and do something separate since that was kind of new or breaking. But tomorrow we'll probably dive in to the actual shit show or meeting that occurred this week. Friday, I'm going to have a guest on the channel. It was a guest I had on before. She has some financial expertise, and we're going to talk about Adrian Peterson, former NFL player, NFL Hall of Famer, made $100 million, is going broke. And we're going to talk a little bit about GoFundMe culture and how to avoid it. We're going to look at some interesting stories, some interesting going on in the news, some scams, some things related to money. But the big thing is she's kind of an expert, and she is an expert when it comes to the insurance side of the game. So we're going to talk about that, dive into that as well. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Yo, y'all take care. Have a good day. Be blessed. Let me see, go through these. All right, I wanted to make sure I got everything. Y'all have a good one. Be safe. Good night, y'all. Peace.